They say they want to level with you, like they level public housing and they're leveling schools. You gotta file just to beg for the truth, and if they reject it, then shame on you. Tax and credit financing, we can pay for anything, like shopping malls with movie screens and everything but what you need to get to the water, eat for free, get a fucking PhD, and don't you dare complain to me if you want an opportunity. Eventually, we are the ones who fall in line.
Correct.
We've been the magic kids 1,000 times.
Correct.
We are the ones who fall in line.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore. You're 100% bullshit.
We are the ones who fall in line. We've been the magic kids 1,000 times. We are the ones who fall in line. Oh, yeah! Hey, woo!
It's the butter cow, which has 9 hearts to represent the 9 essential nutrients in milk. That's right, it's made entirely out of butter, and it's a state fair tradition since at least 1922.
Oh.
What's going on, everybody?
Oh, man. That's some funny stuff. All right.
Michael Girardi, can't thank you enough.
No, that's good, man.
What's the next song? Help Michael out with an idea for a new song, Ben.
Oh, my God. Girardi, you're just going to be like you. He's like, what am I, a jukebox? It's got to be inspiration. All right?
You're right.
You know, I mean,
right.
but could you do like a Homer Simpson imitation, Girardi? You know, that's what I used to do, Dennis.
Maybe something about the lakefront?
Ooh. Whoa. Yes, keep moving on the lakefront.
There we go.
You know,
Keep moving.
Keep moving.
That's pretty good.
Keep moving. That's what it's kind of like a pun. Keep moving. There's nothing to see here. You know that old line. Keep moving. There's nothing to see here. Now keep moving.
For those who maybe knew, the song that was just playing is from Michael Girardi. He made songs specifically for the Ben Joravsky Show. Want proof? That last song was called Tax Increment Financing.
Guaranteed. The only song. You know, even Rage Against the Machine. Well, how about that, D? Huh? Pull that one.
Look at that.
Oh, reefer.
Man.
Even Rage Against the Machine. What is tax increment financing? I don't know. It's very interesting.
Even Tom Morello's confused.
I love it when whenever they would discuss tax increment financing on like Chicago Tonight. Here goes your opportunity at TTW. Maybe I should just not even go here. It's an interesting program called Tax Increment Financing. Some call it the Slush Fund.
WTTW and WFTW radio.
No, FMT.
FMT, okay.
There goes that job.
Damn
Open
it.
window, throw it out.
Damn it.
Wait, dude, we could just always... most people listen to the podcast. So just excise. Oh, you should see the doctor after every show. He's got an axe.
Yeah.
Taking that out. Taking that out. Takes out all the stuff that makes him look dumb and keeps all the stuff that makes me look dumb in there. Have you ever noticed that, everybody?
Oh, we got a little Rage Against the Machine for a Song of the Day request. Oh, you're in luck, Ben. All right, but let's read these sponsors and get the show going here.
I don't know any songs by Rage Against the Machine. I just know the name. And
Shocking.
Morello, he came to Chicago. I give him a lot of love. Let me just say this, man. I give the guy a lot of love. He did a performance, I remember, with just acoustic guitar at I think it was at the Daily Center with the nurses standing up to Mayor Rahm and his idiotic idea to bring the G8 to Chicago. So, Rage Against them. That's how I heard about the guy. Oh, wow, this guy's pretty cool.
Hey, Ben, it has to start somewhere. It has to start sometime. What better place than here? What better time than now? Am I right?
Whoa, get that bong out. That sounds like a Rage Against the Machine song.
It is. Okay.
Oh, come on. Everybody knows that's called It's Gotta Start Sometime. It's one of their biggest hits, D. Get with it. Get hip.
Okay, your Ben Joravsky Show for Thursday, June 18th is moments away.
But
Before we get into this, let's thank the following unions for sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8.
That's correct.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9.
That's correct.
The International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150.
That's correct.
And of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor.
I want an answer. It's not something to ignore. I think you're 100% full of shit.
All right, Ben. Song of the day. Let's hear it, pal.
come on. I just got to say that may have been Lori's finest moment. That was such a good comeback. 100%, folks. I think we should have a fact-finding commission to determine whether it was actually 100% or 35%.
Let's have a little fun with the song of the day. Your song of the day request from Pat Rod is
Okay.
Bulls on Parade from Rage Against the Machine.
Yes, Bulls on Parade. Hold on one second. What's he? Bulls on Parade. I love it when Joakim Noah and Derrick Rose go on parade. Woo, 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 woo.
Get a basketball joke
Get
there.
it? Bulls on Parade. I got a million of them. Okay? Catch me at Zany's.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. And Zany's is closed. It is Thursday, June 18th, and live from Ben's attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, In These Times writer Miles Kampf-Lassin. And now your host, Chicago Reader writer, Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Bolton Book Thursday. And here's why. Big news in today's New York Times. That's the New York
See
Times.
that, newspaper listeners?
That's the New York Times. John Bolton, his book came out and it trashes Trump. Here's the headline. Bolton book says Trump's offenses exceeded Ukraine, alleges president asked Xi to buy crops to help him win farm states. That's just the headlines. Page 1 in the upper left corner. That's like where they put all the news that you're supposed to see, that you have to see. It's prime real estate in the newspaper game.
Wait, what page was that again?
One as
Number one.
Meanwhile, my beloved Bright one, it's not even on the front page. And the Tribune, not on the front page either. Sometimes I wonder if Chicago is like part of the same country. Yeah, I know we're like the second city, and I know we're in the flyover part, but you know, stuff that happens in Washington affects us too. So I'm going to spend time talking to it. I know people in Chicago. Well, but Ben, why? Come on. Nope. It's like vegetables. We're going to eat them and get smarter and better. Okay. Eat your vegetables, ladies and gentlemen.
Quit hitting the desk so much.
It's not in the Sun-Times. It's not in the Tribune, at least on the front page. But it's on the front page of the New York Times, so we're going to deal with it. It's actually a pretty interesting story because it highlights one of my favorite themes, and that theme is Republicans are a bunch of sniveling serpents. They're snakes, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they are. They weren't always snakes. There used to be some. Charles Pershing, I'm going to throw out a good Republican. Hey, he got defeated in 84, excuse me. So it's been a while since we've had some really good Republicans. But anyway, for folks who aren't paying attention, let me just say, John Bolton is the former national security advisor to Trump and to Bush. He's been an advisor to Republican presidents forever. He's your basic, red meat, right-wing Republican. I know Chicagoans are going, like a lot of Chicagoans, like, hey, wait a minute. Isn't that guy the singer? No, the wrong Bolton. That's Michael Bolton. All right? D, sing a Michael Bolton song. I was embarrassed to say when I made that joke, I did not know one Michael Bolton song.
Yeah, I can't think of any, but I know he sounds like that.
So then, this is pre-show prep. I looked up Michael Bolton on the internet, and I still didn't know any song, except I discovered that he was involved in a trademark infringement lawsuit. The Isley Brothers sued him. He stole some song from the Isley Brothers. Ended up having to pay my beloved Isley Brothers $5 million. I missed that story. Come on, Bolton. Bolton fought like heck to avoid having to pay that. Come on, Bolton. Pay up the Isley Brothers. No, different Bolton. Not Michael Bolton, John Bolton. He's the guy with the walrus mustache. Oh, yeah, that guy. Anyway, he can't stand Trump. He is, I have to say, I probably disagree with John Bolton on everything except this. He can't stand Donald Trump, so that's good enough for me. He can't stand Trump. I don't like him. He's my ally at the moment. At the moment. He can't stand Trump so much, he wrote a book all about it, talking about what a rat Trump is. The name of the book, by the way, D, is The Room Where It Happened, which is actually not a bad title of the book. You know, it's like a good suspense thriller. Anyway, The Room Where It Happened. I can guarantee you I will not read the book. I will not purchase the book. But I will read newspaper accounts of the book, and then I will read newspaper accounts of the fallout over the book. That's about as far as I'm going to go subsidizing John Bolton. Here's the opening sentence in the New York Times story about John Bolton's new book. Uh-oh, train roaring by. John R. Bolton. I always put the middle initial in. John R.
What do you think that stands for?
Reginald.
I'm going Rutherford.
You want to look it up?
No. Frank!
John. I go Reginald, you go Rutherford? All right. What's the over-under? How about the interview yesterday? Was it 2 days ago with Adolfo?
2 days ago.
Oh, my God. We did the over-under. How long before Adolfo Mondrian dropped the F-bombs? Like 1 minute. Anyway, John R. Bolton, the former National Security Advisor, says in his new book that the House in its impeachment inquiry should have investigated President Trump, not just for pressuring Ukraine, but also for a variety of instances where he sought to use trade negotiations and criminal investigations to further his political interests. We all knew that, and there's the guy on the inside saying it now. Trump is a rat. Trump tried to use all the power he could, make himself richer and more powerful, keep this thing going beyond its due date, which was 4 years ago. Now, by the way, I realize that anything that Bolton says in his book will not change one vote in this upcoming election, because everybody who is against Trump is still against Trump, and everybody who loves Trump, and there's many people like that, will vote for him regardless of whatever evidence is put in front of them.
Regardless.
And I tested very positively in another sense. So this morning, I tested positively toward negative, right? So, no, I tested perfectly this morning. Meaning I tested negative.
All right, I'm glad we got that one settled. and you know, it's funny. One of the Republicans' points that they're making against Joe Biden is that he's senile. Okay, Republicans, that's Exhibit A, all right? I think you should just take the whole senility issue off the table. All right, where was I? Oh, the New York Times. I got an advanced copy of John. I almost said Michael Bolton. God, I got that in my head. I'll be calling him Michael Bolton all day. The book, The Room Where It Happened, I'm going back to the New York Times stories, was obtained by the New York Times in advance of its scheduled publication next Tuesday, and has already become a political lightning rod in the thick of an election campaign and a #1 bestseller on Amazon.com even before it hits the bookstores. Wow, that's amazing. You know what? I know this is going to sound really cynical, and I apologize. I was wondering, why didn't they give the Ben Joravsky show an advance copy of the book? How about that, D?
We'll get there one day.
They didn't give us a advance copy. I bet you they cut a deal. I could just imagine, like Simon & Schuster, the executives of Simon & Schuster, the book publishing company, calling up the New York Times. Hey, here's what we're going to do. We'll give you the advance copy, but you got to guarantee us prime real estate in that newspaper. And the New York Times, of course, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. It's newsworthy. And then so they justify it by saying, it's a lightning rod.
Wait a minute, stop. Frank has weighed in.
Oh, okay.
We have the middle name of
Okay.
Mr. Bolton.
Yeah.
It's Robert.
That's correct.
We were both wrong.
Yeah.
Frank, you were right. When we go back to the studio, you're coming in, and I'll buy you lunch for being right.
If you want to. I mean, you know, pandemic and all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you for saying that. Goes without saying. We've said that to all our guests. You don't have to, when we go back to the studio, you don't have to. It's like 50-50. Henry Davis, I'm there. You tell me when I am there, okay?
Maya Duke Masaba.
She wasn't there.
No, she's not there.
She's like, That's why we have phones. Okay. Anyway, so they got their advance copy. I'm sure no deal was struck. It's just coincidental that they put it on in the most prime real estate. Anyway, it's a good story. But I'll get to the sniveling serpent part of the story. The Trumps had his Justice Department lawyers. These are lawyers for the Justice Department supposed to be representing you, but as we know, we've talked about this with Jim Coogan for a while, they essentially are lawyers under the retainer of Donald John Trump. Anyway, Trump sent the Justice Department lawyers into court. They filed a last-minute lawsuit against Bolton. Let's see what it says here. Against Bolton this week, quote, seeking to stop publication even as Mr. Trump's critics complain that Mr. Bolton should have come forward during the impeachment proceeding rather than save his account for a $2 million book contract. Oh, Miles is going to get into this a little later, but folks, the Democrats very much wanted John Bolton to testify at the impeachment hearings, and John Bolton hid behind this lawsuit. Well, we have to see.
Hey, get off behind that lawsuit.
He said, well, these certain cases had to be adjudicated before I determine whether I should comply with that.
I see a curly mustache behind that lawsuit. Is that you, John?
Bolton's like, Bolton may have been born at night, but he wasn't born last night. He's like, I got a $2 million advance coming out. I think I'm going to tell all of you Democrats? You want to know? You got to read the book.
It's either Yosemite Sam or John Bolton. I think it's you, John.
He's got the curly mustache. Now, listeners will go, oh, yeah, that guy. Not the singer. I don't think there's one listener to the Ben Joravsky Show can name one Michael Bolton song.
Oh, I guarantee. Live stream chat. Weigh in. Frank, weigh in.
I don't believe it. I know you guys, your tastes do not go toward Michael Bolton. But I did discover when I was doing the pre-show prep.
He's so proud of himself when he prepares for his own show, guys.
Pre-show. He did a version of Sitting on the Dock. Did you know that, D?
Yeah, I knew that.
What a lie. You did.
No, yeah, I did. Dude, all right. I've had several car rides with my mother in the late '80s and early '90s.
And she loved
as a child.
She loved Michael Bolton.
I mean, that was on the radio. That was like the soft rock hits.
I just sure he annihilated that song, and I never want to hear his version ever. But I did not know that. And then I read that he stole the song from the Ozzy Brothers. Anyway, where was I? I've completely lost track. So the Trump lawyers, yes. They went to court to block publication of the book. Why did they go to court, you ask? Good question. So here's what the New York Times says. Mr. Bolton's volume is the first tell-all memoir by such a high-ranking official who participated in major foreign policy events and has a lifetime of conservative credentials. It is a withering portrait of a president ignorant of even basic facts about the world, susceptible to transparent flattery by authoritarian leaders manipulating him, and prone to false statements, foul-mouthed eruptions, and snap decisions that age try to manage or reverse. That's pretty well written. Peter Baker, good job from the New York Times. So, in other words, the book portrays Trump as a blowhard ignoramus. Again, not that will change one vote in the upcoming election. As MAGA Hat Nation has already let it be known, they love him when he's really dumb.
Yeah, it's baked in the cake, man.
All right. So here's just some of the revelations in this. Hold on. Let me get to the page. Hold on. Bear with me. There we go.
Excellent audio today, guys.
Okay, here we go. Some of the revelations in this book. At times, Mr. Trump seemed to almost mimic the authoritarian leaders he appeared to admire. Quote, these people should be executed, Trump once said of journalists. Wow, they are scumbags. These people should be executed, he said of journalists. They are scumbags. That's actually pretty chilling when I think about it. When President Xi of China explained why he was building concentration camps in China, the book said Mr. Trump said that Xi should go ahead with building the camps which he thought was exactly the right thing to do, quote, end of quote. He repeatedly badgered William Barr to prosecute former Secretary of State John Kerry for talking with Iran, in which he insisted was a violation of the Logan Act. And this final revelation, in the face of such behavior, even top advisors who position themselves as unswervingly loyal mocked Donald Trump behind his back during the president's 2018 meeting with North Korea's leader. According to the book, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo slipped Bolton a note disparaging the president, saying, quote, he is full of...
Let it rip, buddy.
I can't do it, D.
Do it.
I can't.
Come on.
The New York Times literally wrote it out.
Let it rip.
S-H-I-T.
Which spells?
Can't do it, okay? I know somewhere, someplace, Yoda, I'm still thinking of Yoda. Oh, Ben, you can't swear. They'll take away our license. Like Trump's listening. Oh, progressive radio. We're going to take away their license.
Oh, man.
All right, here we go. I'm going to say it. He is so full of shit.
That's correct.
A month later, Mr. Bolton writes, Pompeo dismissed the president's North Korean diplomacy, declaring that there was, quote, zero probability of success. Now, I'm waiting for Pompeo to come out with a statement saying he never wrote that note, and I'm hoping that Bolton has kept a copy of that note. Maybe, for all I know, there's a picture of the note in the book. I won't know because I plan never to buy the book. Probably in a bookstore, I'll pick it up. Don't let anybody know this and look through and look at the pictures and that kind of thing. Anyway.
When a Man Loves a Woman. It's a Michael Bolton song.
Okay, first of all.
A cover.
Thank you. I'm sure he annihilated that song. Percy Slett. When a man. Sorry, where was I? Oh, here I am at the sniveling serpent part of the story. Took me a while to get there. Trump sent the Justice Department lawyers into court to file a last-minute lawsuit against Bolton. They said that he was violating national security. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny when it comes to Trump and First Amendment, free expression, and how much free expression you're going to allow in the world? Trump's lawyers argue that disclosure of the manuscript will damage the national security of the United States. Oh, my God, it sounds horrible. But to which Simon & Schuster, the publishers of the book, I'm sure are saying, yeah, bring that lawsuit on. Because first of all, they know Trump will lose. And second of all, they know that the more attention Trump gets for trying to bury the book, the more suckers will buy the book. And they need a lot of suckers because John Bolton reportedly got a $2 million advance for writing the book.
Are you more of a Simon or Schuster guy?
No, you're thinking of Simon and Garfunkel.
No, Simon and Schuster. Which one? You look like a Schuster guy to me.
I'm not quite sure who's who. Although one of them is the father or grandfather of Carly Simon. And I know you don't know who she is. Anyway, all right. I love the word reportedly in that sentence. He reportedly got $2 million advance, which I guess that means nobody has really, there's no proof that he got it, but it's sort of the word on the street. Anyway, so he got $2 million. You got to sell a lot of books to make up that $2 million. And now we're at the real sniveling serpent part of the story. The same White House that is trying to block Bolton and Simon & Schuster from publishing the book. They're the White House, the same White House that cries those crocodile tears when everyone takes offense at something they say. And it was just about a week or two ago that Senator Tom Cotton had the New York Times, which in one of their dumbest moves ever, they gave him space to write his idiocy about how the president should send in troops to quell the disturbances that were going on in the city at the time by whatever means necessary. Lord knows how many people would have been killed if that were to happen. The New York Times put that essay up. You could still read it. There was a revolt in the newsroom as reporters and photographers and editors said, my God, how could you shame us by putting this stuff up here? At which point the New York Times put a disclaimer on the piece that more or less says, don't blame us for this stupidity. It's Tom Cotton's fault. Well, it's not literally what it says, but more or less. And then how did Tom Cotton respond? He responded by sending out a fundraising appeal saying, I fought the New York Times. I beat the New York Times. Like he cares about getting his word out. It's not just like a weapon in a game, a larger game to raise money. So anyway, when the New York Times writers revolt against Tom Cotton's essay and say, don't publish it, it's censorship. But when Trump sends in his lawyers to literally censor John Bolton and keep you from seeing what he has written, well, that's national security. As Dennis likes to say, rules for thee, not for me. We got a great show today, everybody. Miles Kampf-Lassin will be here. He'll be talking about Bolton. And he'll also be singing some of his favorite Michael Bolton songs.
Thank God.
I'm sure he's never even heard of Michael Bolton.
Yes, he has.
We'll talk about the DACA ruling. We'll ask him if he thinks that these justices, really are like great jurists or whether politicians, political decisions. God, I'm happy they made the decision, but a little skeptical about their reasoning. Whatever, as long as they do the right thing. We'll get his, we'll get more thoughts on Bolton Gate and also breaking news. I don't know, D, I don't know if you knew this. I didn't know it till I talked to a pre-show prep. Miles is going to be a delegate, a Bernie delegate.
All right.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. I did not know that. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
I did not know that. So plenty to talk about with the great Miles Kampf-Lassin from In These Times. But before we do that, the young man from Bolton, the man that Miles Kampf-Lassin calls.
Did you say Bolton?
Yes, I did.
Michael Bolton?
Hold on, hey, when you put that up there, take that part out. Oh, no, that part won't get taken out.
I'll edit it out.
No, please keep it. When he stumbles, it's gone. So this is what you hear. Dr. D.
Hey, man. Man's got to eat, all right? I'm trying to...
He takes out all the WBEZ references, ladies. No, he doesn't. He does not. Where was I? Oh, the man from Alton. The man that Miles Kampf-Lassin and John Bolton called Dr. Doobie with the news.
Now you call John Bolton John Bolton. God. My coworker, guys.
Wait till you hear what's coming up. It's confession time. It's a very embarrassing confession.
I think it's safe to say, if you've been to the dentist in the last 30 years, you've heard Michael Bolton.
Yeah, you probably. I mean, I don't know. But when you said he sang "When a Man Loves a Woman," I had a vague memory of hearing someone destroy that song. But I would never listen to more than like 5. Oh my God, this is horrible. I can't picture. What does he look like?
He had signature long hair, long curly hair. He eventually cut his hair, but yeah, he had long hair like a skinny Fabio.
Oh, I know Fabio. Yeah. Oh, I actually know Fabio. Oh God, we're heading into confession territory where my ignorance is going to be on full display. But I must be
It just sounds like another Ben Joravsky show, so that's good.
Anyway, Michael Bolton, John Bolton. What's the difference?
One's named Michael and one's named John. All right, like we always do about this time, let's find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. No public events scheduled for our Illinois Governor, J.B. Pritzker, so let's get right to the Chicago mayor.
Wait, aren't you going to play I'm Not a Perfect Person?
There you go. You just did it. Today, Mayor Lightfoot is or was at Lakeshore Drive and 51st Street to mark the reopening of the lakefront. All together now. Thank you, Mayor Lightfoot.
Thank you, Mayor Lightfoot.
That's correct.
Better not stand still. We will arrest you. Sorry, D.
Now, we do have details from Mayor Lakefront's Wednesday City Council meeting, and yes, we're happy to report that the 15th Ward Alderman Raymond Raylo Lopez survived the meeting. And as of right now, no new altercations to report between Lopez and the mayor.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think. If you think we
No offense, fuck you then.
Hold on.
Who are you to tell me I'm full of shit?
Oh, my God.
That was the old altercation.
I'm sorry. I can't. These are bleak times. These are troubling times. It's like we're coming face to face with problems our country's ignored for years, centuries. We're in the middle of a pandemic. But every time I hear that, it just always makes me laugh. God bless Chicago. You know what I'm saying? I'm full of shit. Well, beep you.
All right, here's a little of what went down during the city council meeting Wednesday.
Okay.
As Illinois Politico and Shia Kapos put it, it was a high-drama video conference that had aldermen unleashing on each other for their actions in wake of protest against police brutality. We'll talk about that in moments. But first, here are 3 things that passed.
Number 1.
I love that. Number 1.
A $1.1 billion plan to disperse federal COVID-19 relief money.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
So that was the first one. Anything you want to say there, Ben?
No, that's just
all right. Cool. Let's go on to number 2.
Number 2.
All right. Go on. Go ahead. Yeah.
A measure to help renters facing evictions.
Well, it probably didn't go as far enough, but let's move on to number 3.
And finally,
Number 3.
a resolution honoring Juneteenth, the day slavery officially ended in the United States 155 years ago. Now, if you look at your calendar, you'll realize, holy crap, that's tomorrow. But it should be noted that this does not mean you get this June 19th off, unless your company says so.
I got a notice from my bank that they were going to cut hours in honor of Juneteenth. And my first response, well, that's nice. Well, how about abolishing redlining? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That would really be nice if you, like, the banking industry has not actually been a good partner to black people in this country down through the years. How about you abolish redlining when it comes to making loans? That would be even better. How about you pay your tellers more money? How about that, D, huh? How about you just give a raise to your tellers? They're underpaid. Anyway.
All right, and what failed at Wednesday's City Council meeting? Well, that would be the measure to remove Chicago police officers from Chicago public schools. And that's about when the drama went down here. According to Politico, the bill to remove school police was caught up in a parliamentary debate that landed the proposal in the Rules Committee. And if you ask Giacopos, the Rules Committee is where ideas go to die.
Yep, that's where the Rules Committee is. By the way, just want to say this before going any further. Dave Glowacz has confirmed that he will be making an appearance next week. He is negotiating the deal right now with attorneys for the Ben Joravsky Show. It's not unlike John Bolton and his lawyers in the New York Times, okay? A lot of wheeling and dealing going on when you try to book Dave Glowacz. Ben, Dennis, play the excerpt entitled Bolton. And he's negotiating. I think it'll be next Thursday. So anyway, and we will break down the city council, have clips, dynamic stuff from the great Dave Glowacz. Go ahead, young man.
We won't have any Bolton clips.
Dennis, play the part that says Lori Lightfoot. And Dennis is losing.
So before we go any further, just walk us through here, for those who may not know, the Rules Committee. Just a quick little thing on the Rules Committee.
Okay. The Rules Committee is, as Giacopos wrote, the place where legislation goes to die. And this has to do with the fact, folks. Follow me on this. I've said this many times in the show. In the city of Chicago, we have an interesting interpretation of democracy. In traditional democracy, the legislative body is a separate branch from the executive body, and one overlooks the other. One is a check and a balance, I should say, on the other. But no, not in the city of Chicago. In the city of Chicago, we've decided that it's a good idea to have a democracy where the mayor controls the legislative body. And so in this case, the mayor determines who the chair of the Rules Committee is. So when you move legislation that the mayor doesn't like to the Rules Committee, the chair of the Rules Committee, in this case I think it's Michelle Harris, guarantees that it never emerges until the mayor says it can. So really what the Rules Committee is an extension of the mayor's power, as though the mayor doesn't have enough power already in the city of Chicago. So that's the significance of the Rules Committee. It's where the mayor has the alderman dump legislation that she hasn't figured out what to do with yet. You know, they may take their legislation out, rewrite it, water it down a little bit, and then have one of their favorite aldermen propose it, and then it gets passed. Isn't that interesting how that works, Steve? So it's not unlike Michael Bolton stealing the Isley Brothers song. So what he does, he has this great song by the Isley Brothers. It's a great song. I know what I'll do. I'll redo it and pretend like I came up with it, and then come out with it, and then fight like hell against the Isley Brothers when they go to court and say, hey, you stole our song. That's what happens with legislation.
A lot of Michael Bolton talk today. Shout out to Brianna on the live stream chat. She asked a great question. Why is Ben's voice so high when he imitates Mr. Bike? What's that all about?
It's not high. No. I must. He has that very measured. He's very BEZ-like. So Dennis, I guess it is a little high. You know,
yeah.
Dennis, it's not like this high. It's more like this high. Dennis, it's that very calm, measured. It's like, that's how he does it. Very measured. It's measured. Dennis, play Bolton. When a man... No, not that, Bolton.
So that's your answer, I guess, Brianna? I don't know if we answered it really. But anyway, let's move on here. Alderman Chris Taliaferro. Ben, of what ward?
29th.
Oh, Lord.
I know, it's a sickness.
Alderman Chris Taliaferro, an ally of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, performed the legislative maneuvering that killed the bill. After the meeting, Lightfoot said that she was as surprised as anyone the measure was sent to rules.
Oh, God. Did she say that with a straight face? Come lay your life and you have learned to play the game. I'm shocked. Well, I didn't know that was coming.
You're laughing pretty hard there. Explain why.
Because he moved it because she told him to move it. If not literally her, then one of her legislative aides. Alderman, can you do us a favor and send this down 2 rules? No problem.
All right.
But, I'm surprised. I didn't know that.
All right, now here's where it gets a little weird.
Okay, oh, God.
Not the show. The show today has already been weird.
All right,
here's where this city council meeting got a little weird, all right?
I love the city council.
While the bill was sidelined, the discussion about police reform raged on the streets in a protest around City Hall and in a tirade started by the Chicago Teachers Union on Twitter. The Chicago Teachers Union, which has poked at the mayor at every turn since her election. By the way, those last 2 lines had Lightfoot's PR team written all over it.
Let's just get that clear. That was not literally you writing that.
No, that was not me.
Dennis did not say the Chicago Teachers Union has been poking at
no, that was from Politico.
Okay, one more time. Read that sentence saying Politico wrote, go.
Oh, there we go. That'll make a real clean edit on the download.
We'll just edit this whole thing out. People won't even know what's happened.
According to Illinois Politico, while the bill was sidelined, the discussion about police reform raged on the streets in a protest around City Hall and in a tirade started by the Chicago Teachers Union on Twitter. CTU, which has poked at the mayor at every turn since her election. By the way, those last 2 lines had Lightfoot's PR team written all over it.
Yeah, go on. Is there more?
Now it says that the CTU posted this, but it looks like they retweeted this, all right? I don't know if you people listening have seen this or not. Retweeted from the Chicago Teachers Union was a questionable Scooby-Doo parody cartoon, one depicting Lightfoot dressed up as a cop and tied up with a rope. And, understandably so, a lot of raised eyebrows out there in the city of Chicago after seeing this. But if you've yet to see it, you might want to. It's for sure a head scratcher. It's a cartoon picture of the classic Scooby-Doo scene where the uber Caucasian crew of Fred, Velma, Shags, Daphne, and of course Scooby-Doo. They have the culprit tied up and they have taken off the mask, which in this case, the mask was a white cop. And the culprit was Lori Lightfoot. And she would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those meddling kids. But seriously, it's a little cringe. Now, I showed this picture to Ben, and it's confession time here on the Ben Joravsky Show. People, you're not going to believe this.
All right. First of all, yes, it is confession time. I'll get to the confession. But let me just deal with that line about they've poked Lori Lightfoot at every turn, okay? The Chicago teacher. Can I just say this? All right. Everybody knows I love the Chicago Teachers Union. SDG, Stacey Davis Gates, is a regular guest on the show. In fact, she'll be showing up tomorrow, D. We can ask her about this cartoon. So I'm a big fan of the Chicago Teachers Union. I don't agree with everything the Chicago Teachers Union has done, by the way. I thought they went way too hard against Lori Lightfoot and for Tony Preckwinkle in the 2019 mayoral election. I don't think Tony Preckwinkle warranted the support they gave her, number one. And number two, I don't think it was a smart political move to go so strong against the candidate that was obviously going to win. Okay, so I faulted them. I disagree with them on two fronts there on that matter. But having said that, to say they poked at her at every turn since the election, as though the poking hasn't gone back, I would gone back from the other side. Like Lori Lightfoot has not antagonized the Chicago Teachers Union. I've always urged Lori Lightfoot to reach out, have the olive branch to Stacey Davis Gates. I don't know why she's got this thing about SDG. And just, you're both basketball players. Remember I said that? I've made the joke. Let's have the one-on-one game. I'll referee the game. That was a joke, but Lori Lightfoot's inability to treat the Chicago Teachers Union with any kind of respect is... You have to observe that. You can't just say the Chicago Teachers Union has been poking at Lori. They had this power struggle with the strike in 2019. I was with the teachers 100% because I felt that they should, Lori Lightfoot and the Board of Education, should put in writing that they were going to have nurses in schools. instead of having vague promises. And boy, does that look pretty smart to do now in the middle of the pandemic to hire more nurses. So it's a two-way street, this fight between the Chicago Teachers Union and Mayor Lori Lightfoot. And to pretend as though, oh my God, Lori Lightfoot's just this innocent bystander while the Chicago Teachers Union, the mean Chicago Teachers Union pokes at her, I don't think that's really fair to the Chicago Teachers Union. All right. Now, where was I? Oh, confession.
Stop hitting the desk so hard.
All right, this is confession time. I'm a little embarrassed to say this.
I couldn't believe this.
No.
No way.
I thought about not saying it and pretending it didn't happen, but then I said, Dennis, I can't. I'm just going to have to come.
Show prep.
So this is show prep on the Ben Joravsky. And thank God we did the show prep, because if he just dropped this one on me right now. So show prep. Let me just set the scene. Show prep. Dennis is in my house. He's eating, wolfing down a delicious sandwich that my wife made for him.
Toast.
Don't go. Well, he just didn't stop you from wolfing it down. Oh, this is good. And he said, did you see this tweet? Which, of course, the answer is no, since I don't look at Twitter. Did you see this tweet from the Chicago Teachers Union? And I go, no, I didn't know anything about it. Which is not even the main part of the confession. And then he said, yeah, it involves Scooby-Doo, right? Scooby-Doo, isn't that what it's called?
Yes.
At which point, folks, I said, what is Scooby-Doo? Oh, my God. And Dennis, he looked at me with such disbelief. I've known this guy. I've worked with this guy for 3 years. I think I really hit rock bottom.
Never heard of Scooby-Doo?
He's like,
the 60s, 70s guy? Never heard of Scooby-Doo?
No, that's the conversation went. I go, come on, that's some 80s thing. And then Dennis goes, no, it was in the 70s. I go, no way. We look it up. This is, by the way, pre-show prep on the Ben Joravsky show. The clock is ticking down to being on the air. We're looking up Scooby-Doo. It came out in 1969. It's a butter cow. I'm like, oh my God, it's really embarrassing. I was like, I vaguely heard of Scooby-Doo.
No, Ben said, and I quote, Scooby-Doo, what's that, some ice cream? He thought it was ice cream.
True. Oh, jeez. Oh, God, I'm through in this business. I have no wonder they fired me at that radio station. You don't know who Scooby-Doo is? I didn't know who Scooby-Doo is. Then Dennis explained that. He did a great job. He explained, like they're these kids and they're detectives and they figure out the crime.
I think they all smoke pot. I think that's kind of the underlying thing no one talks about.
You made that up.
No.
Okay. And then at the end of the show, like there's a bad guy who's got a mask on and they pull the mask off.
Yeah.
And so he showed me the illustration. And that's what and then I didn't even get the illustration. I go, I don't understand what's going on. So he had to explain, Anyway. Yes, I think you went too far, Chicago Teachers Union. But here's the thing. It's a retweet. This is the thing. I can't stand Twitter. Everybody knows I can't stand Twitter. I think that it degrades. It degrades the public conversation, in my general opinion. That's why we have Donald Trump. The people love Twitter. And I realize it's here to stay. I realize we've had so many more listeners if we tweeted our stuff. Mick Dumke's telling me that all the time. Ben, you got to tweet your stuff out. You got to tweet your stuff out. That's how you get listeners and this, that, the other thing. So I realize it's here. People use it. I understand. Save your comments and your thoughts, you Twitter lovers. You love it. But I think it degrades the conversation. And I just thought that retweeting stupid stuff that people put on Twitter just makes you look bad. Trump's always doing that. And Donnie Jr. is always doing that. They retweet racist stuff. And it just makes them look bad and it gives attention to racists. So I'm just not a fan of Twitter. I think it just brings down the level of conversation. In this particular case, my beloved Chicago Teachers Union, I did not like that cartoon that you retweeted. So they retweeted it, D. Isn't that a distinction? So, yeah, I think they should have thought twice before they retweeted that thing.
On a side note, I really think you'd like Scooby-Doo. You should give it a watch.
I don't think so.
No, I think you would. Adam West was on at one time. Batman and Robin. The Harlem Globetrotters did an appearance.
Adam West was a regular or was just a guest?
No, he appeared as Batman, and Robin was there too.
Oh, can you sing the Batman song?
Batman.
D. Anyway, Scooby-Doo. Yeah, that was really embarrassing. Oh, my God. You should have seen. Folks, I wish we had a camera. I wish we had the camera to get the look at Dennis's face. You don't know what Scooby-Doo...
I mean, there's a few on the live stream chat who agree. Let's see here. Claire says, boy, that's a massive cultural blind spot.
Yeah, Claire, what can I tell you? You're right. When you're right, Claire, you're right. I admit it.
Yeah, so Ben thought Scooby-Doo was an ice cream. So let's move on here.
Wait, time out. Isn't there some ice cream called Scooby-Doo?
I don't think so.
I think I was thinking scoop of ice cream. Oh.
My coworker, guys. All right. And the big moment of Wednesday's city council meeting came when Alderman Leslie Hairston, Ben of what ward?
5th.
It happened when Leslie Hairston, without naming names, Hairston called out 2 aldermen for appearing on TV supporting those police officers caught on surveillance cameras in Representative Bobby Rush's office, hanging out, playing Words with Friends, and eating popcorn while looters were recently looting nearby. Hairston said, quote, "It's time for this city council to wake up and stop being dismissive." Alderman Anthony Napolitano, 41st Ward, and Alderman Nicholas Spazzato, former guest of the Ben Joravsky Show of the 38th Ward. They were have been on TV defending the officers. Napolitano appeared with bags of popcorn. Hairston stopped speaking at 8 minutes and 46 seconds, the length of time, she noted, that a Minneapolis police officer pressed his knee into George Floyd's neck.
Yeah, very powerful speech by Leslie Hairston. I urge everybody to check it out. Napolitano, you should have thought twice about the popcorn thing. I don't know. That's like really rubbing it in people's face. It's not unlike what the teachers union did. So I think it's worse, actually, when I think about it. Just the popcorn. It's like your just middle finger to protesters, et cetera, and so forth. By the way, that whole story, I'm really looking forward to just the deep dive on that. The police officers in Bobby Rush's office is a story I am looking forward to. I'm holding back.
It seems like there's just like giant pieces missing in the story at the moment, right?
So I'm holding back and see everything. Okay? The head of the Fraternal Order of Police swears up and down that the officers were following the chain of command, that somebody ordered them, dispatched them to that office. I got to see that to believe it, okay? I got to see it to believe it. So I'm really interested. The Bright One, the Sun-Times, they had an editorial about a D where we sing eye to eye. I don't always see eye to eye with my beloved Bright One when it comes to editorials, but we see eye to eye on this one. Where is it? Let's get a full report on cops' stay at Bobby Rush's office. Anyway, so by the way, then there's also the other headline on the Sun-Times editorial. I know this is, wait, hold on, where did I just lost it? Oh, where is it? Come on, here we go. Obama, Lou Rawls, reader suggests new names for Jackson Park. Man, I love calling it Lou Rawls Park. I'm a big fan of Lou Rawls and Lou Rawls. Or Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke is from the south side of Chicago. I love Sam Cooke actually more than Lou Rawls. So anyway, I'm on a tangent within a tangent. Go ahead, young man.
That's all right. Get ready for that new podcast from Ben Joravsky. We're going to work on a tangent within a tangent. Seriously, that should be a podcast that you do. That'd be good times. All right, so we're going to end it out here now. You know, if you've listened to the Ben Joravsky Show for, I'd say about 2 months, it's like a third character here on the program, the lakefront. We talk about the lakefront and the reopening and the closing down of the lakefront quite a bit. But there's one specific trail that we never really talk about on this program. Maybe it's because we're not near it, but the 606.
Oh. God, yeah. All right.
Ben, for those who may not know, what's the 606?
606. Okay. I don't think I've ever talked. You know what? By the way, I just want to say this. I noticed that we do have a lot of listeners. This is something I've actually never talked to.
I've noticed that we have a lot of listeners, too.
We have a lot of listeners who aren't from Chicago. Or at least they're listening in places other than Chicago. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're Chicagoans who've moved to other places. So I often wonder, like, we spend so much time talking about Chicago. Like, our out-of-Chicago listeners, like, what do they make of this stuff, you know? And guys, I don't know. They should be a TV show about the Chicago City Council. I think we all agree that these characters in the Chicago City Council warrant being having their own TV show. But anyway, for our out-of-town listeners, the 606 is a trail. It used to be the Bloomington Railroad Trail. It goes through roughly the northwest side of Chicago, like parallel to North Avenue, doing this top of my head. And for years, it was just an abandoned railroad track. People would walk along the railroad track, smoking reefer.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah,
I did that like once or twice.
I always kind of liked it when it was just an abandoned railroad
Drink
track.
like a 2x4, smoking a little.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then about 20 years ago or 30 years ago, the city of Chicago said, hey, it would be a good idea if we convert it into a trail. And while that was happening, while the money was being raised to convert it into a trail, the neighborhood around it was gentrifying. And so what had been a largely working class, very mixed, integrated neighborhood, black people, Hispanic people, largely Puerto Rican, white people, it was a pretty integrated neighborhood, was gentrified, became predominantly white and relatively well-to-do. It's been happening all over the north side of Chicago. It's happened in my own neighborhood. So it's now become sort of a symbol. And as such, I really struggle with this. You know what I mean? It's a symbol of the changes on the north side of Chicago. And, now that the area is gentrified, we have this wonderful trail, And so there's like a smugness in Chicago about gentrification that I really struggle with. This was at play with the, we were talking about it yesterday with the Lincoln Yards. They're going to have a drive-in theater there. They spent all your money on this cockamamie deal that we don't need to build more gentrified neighborhoods, even though the area around is already gentrifying. 1.3 billion of your tax dollars is going to it, and things have slowed up. So I know what we'll do. We'll have a drive-in theater and charge you, what is it, $37?
35.
35. Oh, sorry. I sit corrected. $35. Who can afford $35? To go see a movie. So it's another symbol of gentrification. And but Chicago is so, oh God, it's so wonderful. And they just love the mayor and the alder. You know what I mean? It's a smugness. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm too cynical. Maybe, whatever. Anyway, so the 606D confession, more confession. Man, this is a confessional
like
show.
Therapy.
I know. I didn't know Scooby-Doo. I've never been on the 606. Okay, never.
You're not missing much. It's an awful trail. It's just clogged.
Yeah, I've gone by it many times. I'm going to ride my bike up Damon to go to my beloved Bright One when we had the studio. But I've never been on it, so I've never had.
It's like an obstacle course trying to, especially on a bike. I don't think bikes should be allowed on there, honestly. I had mine, and it was just like, this is the worst idea I've ever had. Like trying to go around people. Oh, don't hit that baby.
No, I'm with you 100%. They should take the bikes off of it. But that's another thing about Chicago. See, and I've been riding my bike my whole life. I ride a bike, but the biking community in Chicago. Oh, Mr. Bike gets so mad when I say this, but they epitomize this smugness.
I think he's more mad at your impression of him, but anyway.
We're such a great city because we ride our bikes. I don't know. It's a little too smug, Chicago, a little too smug. So I'm not a fan of the 606. Oh, God, they're going to kick me out of something.
For all of our 606 fans, sorry, please keep listening.
No, they love the 60. Like, man, come on, you've gone too far now.
Yeah, like all these kicking people out of their apartments. But what about them? But no, look at this trail.
Gentrifying, moving all the Puerto Rican people out of the Wicker Park. But hey, look at this trail. Whoa, what a trail.
It's awful. But let's keep talking about it. The following comes from Block Club Chicago and Kelly Bauer. She does a lot of work for Block Club Chicago.
Hardworking reporter.
Much like the lakefront, the 606 will reopen Monday. Mayor Lori Lightfoot announced the popular, it depends on who you ask, Elevated Trails return during a Thursday morning press conference. Though the trail will reopen, it will also, just like the lakefront, be with restrictions due to the ongoing pandemic. The 606 will be open 6 a.m. until 7 p.m. daily. Some of its entrances will be kept closed to prevent overcrowding. Yeah, it's still going to happen, guys. And people will not be able to gather on it. Here are the rules.
Okay, hold on, D. I got to write them down. In case this will be the time I go to the 606. Okay, rule number one.
Number one.
Masks or face coverings are required at all times.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay.
Number two.
No congregating.
No congregating. No. Oh, God.
All users of the trail, and Michael Girardi, here's the title of your next song, all users of the trail must keep moving.
Yes, must keep moving. No, Michael, that's your next song. Must keep moving. Move them up. Must keep moving. Got it. Must keep. Don't get tired. No old people allowed on that trail. We get a little hot.
Hey, we got to keep moving. How about number 3?
Number 3.
No congregating on this list, all right? Number 3, practice social distancing.
Well, okay. All right.
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah. You know, I was just going to say, if it's as crowded as it usually is, but whatever. Okay. All right. Is there anything else on the list?
No, those are the 3 rules that I have here.
You forgot number 5.
Well, number 4, but yeah, what is it?
No, you forgot. You did the 4, but you forgot number 5.
No, I did the 3, but we need number 4.
I thought you said 4 was practice social distancing.
No, that's number 3.
No, number 3 was must keep moving.
No.
Whoa, who was not
that was
paying
number
attention?
2.
No, number 2 was no congregating.
You're going to keep arguing, so let's just move on.
All right, you forgot the final rule, okay? The final rule is bow to your knees and thank Mayor Lightfoot. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
God.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Oh, that's Chicago. You don't even have to put that as a rule, Mayor Lightfoot, because that's what 606 users would do anyway. Thank you. That's that's reflex. Anybody? Oh, thank you. We love you, Mayor. Wicker Park. We love you, Mayor Lightfoot.
And because we're not sure what really number that was.
Number 5.
Both of them at the same time.
And maybe I counted no congregating as it's separate and whatever.
You did. Okay. We have a quote here from Mayor Lightfront.
Lightfront?
I do that all the time now. Now I mix up. I'm hanging with you too much, dude.
Oh, no, that's that reefer. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it could be.
It's that reefer.
Marijuana.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Here you'll see why I got it mixed up. Here's Lightfoot, quote, like our lakefront.
Yeah, I could see. I would do that. I would definitely do that. Yep.
Like our lakefront, the 606 will be open to anyone looking for an opportunity to run, bike, or walk, or enjoy the outdoors from 6 a.m. until 7 p.m. But also, like on the lakefront, we're going to emphasize to Michael Girardi, hope you're listening, keep it moving. It's critically important that we not congregate. Congregation is the worry and concern about spreading COVID-19, which still is very much in our presence.
I definitely think they should take the bikers off at 606. Bikers have this attitude, especially you younger bikers out there, like walking. Actually, they say run, bike, walk. Some people walk really slow. Have you ever noticed bikers like this attitude when they're sharing?
On your left.
On your left.
I hate on your left.
I know. Thank you. Because first of all, I'm like, what is that? Should I move to the left? I'm just like, what am I? On your left. What are you, Lance Armstrong? You know what I mean?
And no one's ever doing on your left like real nice or politely. It's like you feel like you're pissing them off. On your left.
Yeah, I know.
No one's ever like, please, on your left.
Yeah, I know. They do it like you did something wrong. Like your existence is wrong. You're there. You're old. You're going too slow.
And it's every time. It's usually the bikers who are way too into the bike.
Yes.
With the gear and the...
Yes. Just saying that, bikers, you're really way too into it. You're not Lance Armstrong. On your left. So it's like, you can't really have run, bike, walk, because not everybody walks at the same pace. And the bikers get really mad at, like, slow walkers. And, oh, God, what if, God forbid, someone just stops, just take a drink of water. Move! Calling a lorry on you.
Well, you say that, but we do have here, it says, there will be social distancing ambassadors monitoring the popular trail to keep crowds away and keep things moving.
Wait, time out. This is from the Kelly Bauer article?
Yeah, Block Club Chicago.
Who are these people? Ambassadors?
I don't want to find out.
Like John Bolton? He was an ambassador to the United Nations. Is he going to be there?
Hey, anyone listening on the live stream chat, are you a social distancing ambassador?
Are these going to be volunteers or paid employees of the city? We got money for social ambassadors on the 606, but we have no money for nurses in schools? Huh? I'm just wondering. We have no money to help people pay their rent, but we got money for social ambassadors. Keep moving, or I'll call Mayor Lightfoot.
We will shut you down. We will cite you. And if we need to, we will arrest you, and we will take you to jail.
That's what they're going to do. Hey, enjoy the 606, everybody. Don't walk. Don't walk slow. Slow walkers not allowed. All right, Don't get old, everybody. It's not fair or fun.
don't get old. It's not fair or fun. These words brought to you by Ben Joravsky. That was good.
No, thank you. I just come up with that stuff. I don't know how. Scooby-Doo, D. Great show.
Seriously, I think you would like it. I think you would really enjoy it.
That's what he told me. He goes,
Casey Kasem voices Shaggy. It's pretty cool.
Wow. When you told me that, I was like, Casey. I used to love Casey. Number 5.
Oh, that was
that a good Casey Kasem?
No.
Oh, sorry. I used to love Casey Kasem. Then for a while they were doing old Casey Kasems, D. I don't. Maybe they still do this. Like this year, this day, 30 years ago.
Yeah, well, Ryan Seacrest, he was doing the Casey Kasem gig there. I don't know.
You had to mention
I haven't listened
Ryan
in a while.
Seacrest.
But he was the guy that took over for a while. Maybe he's still doing it.
Not a fan of Ryan Seacrest. Hey, speaking of smug.
Oh boy, Ben is just really sharing his feelings with you guys today.
I've mentioned not a big fan of Ryan Seacrest before. Mentioned that before, D. Weren't paying attention. Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I know. I just not too concerned with your hatred for Ryan Seacrest.
I did not say it was a hatred. It never went that far. Where's Romana Hussein when I need her? That's one of our favorite discussions.
Well, she'll be on the show tomorrow.
She will be. Remember, she tried to pin me down. Come on, Ben, admit that you hate Rahm Emanuel. No, I will not admit I hate Rahm. Remember that great debate? I will not admit it.
All right, we have some On Your Left talk. Who would have thought we'd be talking about this today? And no, that's not the title of some catchy Democratic show. On Your Left is when people are on their bike. All right, Rose says, I like to know where they are coming up behind on me. On your left is fine with me. Almost have been wiped out many times by speeding cyclists. So there is something you got to do, just something about on your left.
Well, she makes a valuable point. That's a good point. Would I rather have someone scare me, frighten me from out nowhere bellowing, on your left, or would I rather be run over? I guess I would.
There's something to be said for the bell. I think I'm going to get a bell this weekend.
Yeah, or I don't know.
The bell works. The bell's perfect.
This is really radical. Slowing down. Whoa, how about that? Being concerned about somebody else in the universe as opposed to yourself. Being concerned about the person who's moving at a slightly slower pace than you. Or are you the master of the universe? Must go at 100 miles an hour or whatever you're doing as you fantasize your Lance Armstrong going up the hills. But you raise a good point, Rose. Absolutely. I'd rather be frightened by a voice booming out from behind me saying, on your left, as opposed to having that person's bike run me over. It's a good point.
All right, so before we lose all of our hardcore biking audience, let's just take a break, all right?
Hey, by the way,
keep all the listeners we can keep.
I ride a bike all the time, just saying.
I as well.
But I've never said on your left. I just slow down.
I've done it once, and I just chills went down my body. Like, oh, I feel like a douchebag. Oh. Yeah. All right, guys, that's the news. Coming up after a song from Michael Girardi, we're going to be talking with Miles Kampf-Lassin. Ben, what are you going to be talking about with Miles?
Well, first of all, one of the things we're talking about is what it means that he's a Bernie delegate. I'm fascinated by the process of becoming a Bernie delegate. I didn't know he was a Bernie delegate, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the DACA ruling. We're talking about Bolton Gate. Maybe we'll get his thoughts on the 606 Trail and On Your Left.
Oh,
and maybe we'll ask him favorite Michael Bolton songs. I'm sure he's got a few.
And we gotta find out if he knows Scooby-Doo.
Oh, come on. Let's not humiliate me even more. Everyone knows Scooby-Doo. Not one person out there does not know Scooby-Doo. Even I know Scooby-Doo now. It's a group of teenagers and they solve crimes.
All right, everybody. Don't go anywhere. The Ben Joravsky Show will be right back. Michael Girardi.
Take it away.
This is Bailout.
Number 4.
Correct.
Oh no, here we go again. When will it ever end?
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit is what I think.
What's the use? We're giving all away to the corporate goons. Got deja vu. Another bailout for the chosen few. What's the use? We're giving all away to the corporate goons. Got deja vu. Another bailout. Bailout! What's the use? Give it all away to the corporate goons. Got deja vu. Another bailout for the chosen few. What's the use? We give it all away to the corporate goons. Got deja vu. Another bailout. Bailout.
I've seen a whole lot of catfish, some turtles. No gators yet, though.
Hey, we're back.
Michael Girardi. That Michael Girardi, I cannot say how much I love Bailout. Fat cats in their MAGA hats, man. You know, and the New York Times may have cut a deal with John Bolton, but we cut a deal with Michael Girardi. How about that, huh? That's great stuff, Michael Girardi.
Yeah, you can find all those songs. You can download them. The songs that you hear on this show. Just type in Bandcamp, Michael Girardi, Gerardi, and the songs will be there. Bailout, A New Low, the editorial board, Tax Increment Financing, the most Ben Joravsky-est song on the planet.
I'm going to have to come up with another TIFF column just to honor that song. I'm probably going to write a TIFF column anyway, but...
And hey, if you're on the live stream and this is the only way you listen to the show, well, we highly suggest that you go download part 2 of today's show. We have a part 2, that's right, and we have Benny J bonus interviews. Yesterday's part 2 was the baby brother of SDG. That's right, Henry Davis Jr. It was a great conversation. Go download that. And our part 2 today, we're going to be talking about Spike Lee's latest work, right?
Well, technically, this is where the pre-show planning might have
bonus.
worked.
It's a bonus.
It's a bonus.
I get so confused on Thursdays.
I know. It is confusing.
But it will be available for download, not tonight, but this weekend. All right.
Yes.
So turns out we do stuff. We have something every day for you to download. Over 500 episodes. Go check them out. All right. Now we're about to call Miles Kampf-Lassin.
Favorite part of the show where we make the phone call. Will it work? Who knows? I used to freak out over this, folks. Then I realized life is short. What's the point?
Yeah, you know.
So here we go. Tick tock, tick tock.
Oh,
Remember yesterday?
waiting.
Who was it yesterday that they didn't pick up their phone and we got the voice?
You're Kevin Blackistone.
That was
Here we go.
Hello?
Miles?
Yeah.
Oh man, love it when technology works.
That's correct.
What's up, buddy?
All right, we're on the. I'm going to see Miles in about 2 seconds. Wait, did you change your thing, Miles? It's not the Bulls anymore? Oh.
No, I think it should be. Oh, here we go.
All right, there we go. All right, Miles Kampf-Lassin, the pride and joy of Whitney Young High School, and In These Times editor-writer. Before we go any further, Miles, tell folks what you've been up to at In These Times and what stories you've dropped and what they can read and learn. Go ahead, tell us.
Sure, please. Well, we've got a couple stories on a couple political races coming up. New York has its primary on June 23rd, and we profile a couple of the kind of progressive challengers that are running. Samlees Lopez, who's running in the 15th district, and Jamal Bowman, who's running against Elliot Engel. So we have pieces on both of them up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear.
Can you hear us?
We published a number of pieces on the kind of conundrum progressives find themselves in with Joe Biden as the nominee. Of course, Donald Trump is a existential threat to, the future of this planet, for one, because of his insistence that climate change is a hoax, but also, as we've seen, he's a giant threat to American democracy and to the future of progressivism in the country. So that said, Joe Biden is not exactly the progressive stalwart many, on the left had hoped for. So how do we kind of manage that? We have a piece by David Duhalde, who was the former political director of Our Revolution, kind of making the case for something I talked about before on this program, which is the importance of going down ballot and working on races that are not necessarily at the top of the ticket, but that can boost Democratic turnout and ultimately, of course, help Democratic candidate, Joe Biden in this case, but allow, progressives to work on issues that are close to their heart, whether that's, fighting for progressives in the swing state of Pennsylvania, like Nick Hulsevall, who just won his primary, or elsewhere. And then we've done tons of coverage on the protest movement around the police killing of George Floyd and the demands for racial justice that have come out of that. So we've got a whole slew of coverage on those issues. So yeah, check out InTheseTimes.com. We've got tons of stuff for you to read.
All right. That Jamal Bowen, Elliot Engel race is an interesting one. I just saw, we talked about this earlier. I forget what day. I've lost track of time. Hillary Clinton had come out for Elliot Engel. And I believe Bernie Sanders is for Jamal Bowman. I believe he's come out for him. Am I correct on that?
That's right. So Bowman has the support of a number of progressives around the country. Of course, Justice Democrats, which is the group that kind of propelled Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to win her seat. She's actually up for, she's facing a primary as well. She's certainly predicted to win, but there's plenty of corporate money fighting her in her district as well. But yeah, Bowman has the support of Ocasio-Cortez, of Bernie Sanders, of the Justice Democrats. He just got the support of the New York City Democratic Socialists of America. And more support is really rolling in for him. I mean, what's interesting about that race is it's kind of the flip side of what we saw happen in the presidential primary, where there was this massive consolidation of the moderates in the race behind Joe Biden before Super Tuesday. What happened is there were a number of other progressives running against Engel in that race, and they all lined up behind Bowman in order to, empower his challenge. And as a result of that, there's new polling out that shows Bowman ahead by like 10 points in that race, which would be a massive upset for the Democratic establishment if they lose that race, because as you pointed out, Hillary Clinton has come out in support of Elliot Engel, but so have like the Congressional Black Caucus, so have Chuck Schumer and Andrew Cuomo. All of these parts of the traditional Democratic Party establishment have tried to protect the incumbent, but it really looks like Bowman has a real shot.
Well, this is an old theme in politics, particularly here in Chicago and the state of Illinois. Michael Madigan, you protect incumbents. And that's just sort of the knee-jerk reaction. They're all partners in crime, if you will, in Congress. They're friends, they're colleagues. They've worked together for many years, and so, yeah, it's part of their club. And it's incumbent on voters to make up their own minds without listening to the Michael Madigans of the world. I'm putting Madigan in New York, but it happens here in Chicago all the time. I remember when Mike Quigley ran against Samina Mustafa, there was all the party came around Mike Quigley, and very few people gave Samina any attention. She was running at him from the left. So yeah, if progressives, this gets to your point, Miles, if progressives want to turn the party or move the party to the left, it's these primary races that they have their opportunity to do so. And it's in districts like Elliott Engels in New York where they can do so, because you would think based on the demographics, it would be to Bowman's advantage. But this is just what you were talking about, like thinking locally, if you will, when it comes to politics.
Exactly, and I think that I agree with you, but I think there's also, what's interesting about this cycle is that there have been a number of progressive challenges, even in more traditionally red or at least purple districts. And one example of that is Charles Booker's race in Kentucky. They have a primary coming up as well, and he's running, and polls show that he is, right now, new polling shows that he's running as a progressive. He's been a community organizer and in Kentucky, and is a black man who's running against kind of the person who's Amy McGrath, who the establishment has gotten behind. She's raised tons of money. She ran for Congress before in Kentucky. They kind of inserted her, said she's going to be the candidate to run against. It's, incredibly important because it's a race against Mitch McConnell, kind of the Darth Vader of our political era, and it's in a red state. And yet Charles Booker is beating Amy McGrath in some of these polls. So if he comes out, I mean, that could really galvanize this progressive movement. And polls even show him performing. Mitch McConnell is still expected to win the race in a general against either of them, but Booker performs much better than Amy does in the polls. So that's a chance where progressives could get into even a state like Kentucky, not a Democratic stronghold, and work to put somebody in office. And as I said, there's candidates like Nikhil Saval, who just won in his primary in Pennsylvania. That's an incredibly important swing state for Democrats to win in November. And so if you have people out, knocking doors or whatever campaigning is going to look like in November in this Corona age, but working to get out the vote, that will only help Democrats up and down the ticket. And you can do that by supporting these candidates we're living in a new era where it's not toxic to be a explicitly left-wing Democrat running on a pretty, bold redistributive platform like a lot of these candidates are.
Yeah, and my recommendation to progressives and Democrats in Kentucky, not that anyone listened to me on this point, but if your candidate loses, just don't drop out. In other words, if you're a Charles Booker supporter, and I probably would vote for Booker if I lived in Kentucky, and let's say he lost Amy McGrath, you still want to defeat Mitch McConnell. I mean, ultimately, that would be a worthwhile objective. And the same is true on the other side. Ooh, do we lose there? No, we're still there. If Charles Booker defeats Amy McGrath and you're an Amy McGrath supporter, don't just abandon the goal of defeating Mitch McConnell. That in and of itself is a worthy goal. Just like defeating Roy Moore in Alabama was a worthy goal. Doug Jones, who was the victor in Alabama, is probably more in line with Amy McGrath than he is with Charles Booker on terms of issues. But it was a significant win to defeat a reptilian character like Roy Moore. So that would be my advice to moderate Democrats. Don't have a hissy fit if Charles Booker is victorious. And the same thing to my lefty friends. Don't go into hiding because you think you're above voting for Amy McGrath if Charles Booker. That's my advice. I don't know. Did you share that opinion?
I do. I mean, there's things about Amy McGrath that, she said some things like she's kind of trying to out McConnell in terms of like who will work better with President Trump, which to me is a confounding way to run in a Democratic primary when you're, running against, as I said, a president who is an existential threat to the future of this country. That said, Mitch McConnell is one of the darkest figures in modern American politics, and I think will go down as such. So ousting him would be with somebody with even a modicum of more, liberal, progressive views would be a massive victory. So yes, I think everyone in Kentucky should commit themselves to trying to ditch Mitch.
All right. Now, before we go any further, I want to ask you your thoughts on John Bolton and the DACA ruling in the Supreme Court. But before we get into that stuff, you dropped a bombshell on me before we went on the air, a mini bombshell. It's a bombshell on the Ben Joravsky show, that you're going to be a delegate a Bernie delegate at the Democratic National Convention. And I remember when you said, I go, what? And so why don't you explain how the process works? Because I'm a geek. I didn't even know this was going on. I wasn't paying attention. If I don't know, then I'm sure a lot of our listeners don't know either. So what went down? What was going on in the back rooms? This smoky back
this
rooms.
was all part of a smoky deal that I made with some party apparatchiks. You know, me and Mike Madigan pat me on the back. That's, you know, all this stuff goes. No, I mean, it's pretty, it's exciting to be able to represent a candidate like Bernie Sanders, who was, I think a transformative candidate and has played a transformative role in American politics by bringing a critique of capitalism into mainstream discourse and pushing forward and moving to the left the debate in this country around critical political issues. I mean, just take Medicare for all. Like, would we be talking about Medicare for all as much as we do? Would we have candidates running on it? Would we have, local bills pushing for it? If we didn't have a champion like Bernie Sanders pushing it into the national view, I don't think we would. So it's exciting to be representing him. In terms of the process, it still kind of confounds me. I mean, there's various types of delegates, of course. There's, elected officials who serve as, delegates. So, for example, Carlos Ramirez Rosa, who's an alderman of the 35th Ward, frequent guest on this show. I know he's similarly going to be a Bernie delegate, but he plays a different role because he is an elected official. And so he kind of steps into that role. Then there's elected delegates who, you might have seen on your ballot when you voted in the most recent election. If you did go out to vote, even though that was in the midst of the early days of this pandemic, there were people that were actively running. And then, when a candidate wins a certain number of votes, and Bernie Sanders did win, a large share of the vote in Illinois, they get allocated a certain number of delegates that then the campaign kind of selects, and then there's still kind of a voting process, but you get nominated. So that's kind of where I came in. I don't know the whole behind the scenes effort, but I think it had to do, with some of the work I did in terms of, as I talked about on this show, a lot of canvassing, a lot of work to get Bernie's message out there. So the flip side of it is that while it is exciting, nobody really knows what is going to happen. There's still not a decision on whether there's going to be an actual in-person convention that is still right now set for the week, I think, of August 17th in Milwaukee. And all the, the places are booked, the hotels are booked up and everything, but I think it's unlikely there's going to be a massive in-person indoor convention in August. It's hard for you to imagine the Democratic Party kind of giving the green light to. I know plenty of people want to see that happen, but in terms of public safety, I don't know what it's going to mean, if it's going to be a virtual convention or a much smaller scale version of it or what. But I promise, as soon as I find out any of that info, I will pass it on to you and your listeners.
Yeah, no, it's I've talked a bit about Donald Trump and the Republicans. They moved the site of Donald Trump's acceptance speech from Charlotte, North Carolina, to Jacksonville, Florida. Trump doesn't want any social distancing protocol in place, such as the protocol that North Carolina was insisting on. He doesn't want to have to deal with that. And Florida said, hey, do you want to cram the facility with MAGA hatters and no one's wearing masks? And go ahead. So he's going to have it in Jacksonville. The Democrats, again, have to play, they have to sort of pretend as though they have to act as though they really take it seriously, the outbreak and the pandemic. And so, yeah, I don't know if they're going to, I can't imagine they're going to squeeze, here I'm sitting here in June, Miles, trying to picture, thousands of Democrats squeezed into an arena in Milwaukee, sitting right on top of each other so that you got that good visual of Joe Biden speaking to a jam-packed auditorium or a jam-packed arena. I don't know if they're going to allow that. I don't know what they're going to do.
There's rumors that they'll potentially move it to Brewers park or something, some place that's larger that they can have people more spread out.
Okay.
But I don't exactly. I mean, it's hard to conceive of a situation like that being safe under the current circumstances. That said, I mean, there's maybe it could be moved outdoors in some way. I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of people at the DNC scrambling around right now trying to figure out what the heck to do. And to be honest, I mean, the fact that Trump is having this rally on Saturday in Tulsa, Oklahoma, he's planned this rally, 19,000 seat arena there, where he's going to hold this indoor rally. And you know, the Trump fans are not fans of masks, and Trump himself obviously isn't. He refuses to be photographed in one. So I can't imagine that these majority of these people are going to be wearing masks. And Oklahoma is seeing their COVID-19 rate spike right now, and public health officials and elected officials in the state have all urged the president to reconsider, to cancel the event, or to at least move it to an outdoor arena, and he has so far said no. So it really is it's a surreal moment where these issues of basic public safety are becoming kind of partisan fights, where Republicans want to show they stand with the president, and the president is telling them act like a global pandemic isn't happening, even as the rates threaten to overwhelm the healthcare facilities in a number of these states, like Arizona and even Florida, which you mentioned earlier, where the RNC is planned for now. That the Florida looks like it might become the new epicenter of coronavirus cases in the country. So to be, hosting these massive indoor events, it just seems like it's like demented. It's like, how could you, as a president, choose to not only send a message that this type of activity is okay when public health officials say and experts say it's not, but also to actually potentially infect thousands of your supporters through hosting an event like this. So it's a very strange time when you think about the politics of it.
Well, I'm just trying to picture you, Miles, as I listen to you at a convention with like a Hawaiian shirt on and a donkey button and a We Love Joe button and a big hat. I'm not really picturing that, Miles. It's not coming up. It's a new day and age if you're a delegate at the convention. I do hope there's some kind of convening. I don't know how they're going to pull it off, but I do hope the Democrats have some kind of. And I'm a sucker for convention speeches. All right, let's move on. But congratulations on being a delegate. I'm kind of jealous of you there. I didn't want to come out and say it, but I am. I think that's pretty cool. All right, let's talk about John Bolton and his book just emerged. The Trump sent in the Justice Department lawyers to try to keep Simon & Schuster from publishing it. I've already talked about this, an act of utter hypocrisy on the part of the right that says it believes in liberty and free expression, etc. Now they're proclaiming national interest and the same security concerns. At the same time, I'm having a hard time getting excited about any book written by John Bolton, a man I disagree with on virtually everything except we both despise the Trump administration. What's your take on all this?
Well, I'm with you. I think it's very difficult to try to stand on the side of protecting the speech of a longtime warmonger and known liar. I mean, John Bolton, I'm sure your listeners are familiar and don't need a real refresher, but this is somebody who was not only part of the Bush Cheney regime, Rumsfeld, Ashcroft, and all this, that was pushing the lies that led us on the march to the war in Iraq, which led to, tens of thousands of deaths, up to 1 million Iraqi deaths. And, we're still facing the consequences geopolitically today of that massive campaign of lies. But he is also somebody that was too extreme in his right-wing, radical right-wing philosophy to even get confirmed by a Republican-controlled Senate when he was nominated by George W. Bush to be the ambassador to the UN. So the only way he really got back into politics was he got picked out by Trump, and partially because of how outspoken he was about the need to take military action. He's frequently talked about the need to take more aggressive stances and more aggressive military action against Iran, against North Korea. And Trump liked the sound of that. So it's kind of ironic that now he's the one that's being embraced as this resistance figure when he was picked out because of his belligerence by Trump and put into that position. And the things that he's alleging in the book, that they kind of fall in line with what we know already, is that Trump has a penchant for authoritarian leaders around the country. He wants to support them. He wants to be like them, and mimic their approaches to foreign policy and even to domestic policy as well, in terms of like crushing dissent. The prime example is we see Trump doing this photo op in front of St. John's Church while having protesters cleared out with tear gas in Washington, D.C., in the nation's capital. I mean, that's something straight out of the dictator's handbook. But now that, this Bolton book is out, we're seeing Trump freak out again, as he always does. Because what he does is, this is the thing. Trump says, if you work for me, if you work in the White House, if you do anything, you have to sign an NDA. You have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. It's a very strange move for a president to take, but this is what he does. So not only is he being sued for, and Trump has also claimed, by the way, that any conversation that he has with anybody is deemed classified. There's no legal backing to that, but that's just what Trump says. And I think it speaks to the fact that what this lawsuit is really about, because it's not a court order, right? Like they're just saying they're filing the lawsuit. They're not stopping the printing of the book. It's not to say this isn't a real lawsuit, but it seems to me like more of a message and more of, it's meant to have this chilling effect. Like the book is still going to come out in a week. The lawsuit, I don't think, is going to actually stop that. The reason they're saying the reason they filed the lawsuit is because they say it, for one, like violated national security by leaking some type of classified information, even though they're not super specific about that, and that it violated this NDA. And that's something I think we're going to see more of as people from the Trump administration try to speak and exercise their First Amendment rights once they're outside of the administration. Trump doing a classic businessman move he's done throughout his career of saying, and this is what like celebrities do when they go on, or anybody when they go on reality TV, they have to sign NDAs so they can't talk about anything that happened. Trump is bringing that into governance now, and so that's a result of this too. So I think it speaks to so many issues that have to do with this president's real hatred of democracy and free speech. It's just, at the same time, I also don't believe that John Bolton really has any credibility as a opponent of this president, since he served willingly under him for so long.
Yeah, and it's also just a knee-jerk reaction by Donald Trump. You're right, to be the bully. And to turn MAGA hat nation against John Bolton, which is so bizarre, Miles, as you pointed out, because it wasn't that long ago that MAGA hat Fox TV, was celebrating John Bolton as a visionary, a great thinker. And it was based on his performances on Fox TV that Trump decided to hire him and bring him into the White House. So it's a fight of Trumpsters. And you're right, when he files this lawsuit, it'll help pivot, turn MAGA hat against Bolton, turn him into a real villain in their eyes. Your thoughts on Bolton getting the $2 million advance, that's what reportedly he got, to tell everything in a book, as opposed to getting no money and telling everything under oath before a congressional committee. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you just summed it up right there. There's no doubt that this was a, self-aggrandizing move by John Bolton to do a tell-all, style memoir. He'd been planning it for a while too. I mean, that's the other side of this, is that Bolton had planned to release this book much earlier, and it's kind of been held up, as I understand, through the, when a former employee of the administration wants to publish a book, it has to go through vetting in order to see if it does have any classified information in it. And basically, they just held up the book for many, many months. The Trump administration did and refused to sign off on it. And then Bolton was basically like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and publish it with Simon & Schuster. And then the Trump administration announced all these things that supposedly violate the clauses around classified information at the last minute that seem like maybe they don't hold up. But yeah, I mean, John Bolton, if he wanted to have an impact, I don't think it would have necessarily swung any Republican votes. I think they were dead set on protecting this president, and nothing that was said in those impeachment hearings was going to move them, which is why, you know, it's questionable how effective of a tactic it was to rein in this president by the Democrats. But that said, if John Bolton actually wanted to impact how this president operates and to have some type of accountability on him and his administration, that's how he would have gone about it. He would have spoken under oath to Congress rather than writing a multi-million-dollar book deal. The rub of it, though, now is that one of the things that could come out of this lawsuit is actually trying to recover the profits from it, from the book sales. And it's being run through, the lawsuit's being filed through the DOJ, through, you know, William Barr's Department of Justice. So that's, if they do go through with it, they have a strong hand and to demand that because Bolton supposedly broke this NDA, that he wouldn't be entitled to future profits from the book, and that Trump and the Trump world could actually pull those future profits away from him. So, yeah, that remains to be seen. But all in all, it seems a pretty self-aggrandizing move by Mr. Bolton.
Yeah, and by the way, we'll get it. It's a perfect transition if it goes to court to the DACA ruling, because ultimately it could come down to the Supreme Court having to render a decision on there whether the NDA takes precedence over his First Amendment free expression rights. But let's just I cannot let this moment pass. This notion that Donald Trump is suddenly declaring that there's a national security interest at stake, so he must block publication of John Bolton's book from the same man who every step of the way, every time they're investigating him, wants the investigators to have to reveal all their sources, to have to testify under oath to explain why it was exactly that they launched their investigations. Donald Trump is such a fraudulent human being. There's nothing resembling like a consistency. There's no principle to anything he does, Miles. When you were talking, I was just thinking about this. I remember when so many MAGA hatters were like, let's get the truth out about the investigation into Donald Trump and Michael Flynn and what are the origins, and let's get FBI investigators under oath, FBI agents to speak under oath. And I, of course, as a believer in transparency, is like, yeah, the more the merrier. And then they flip around. Yeah. They're never with you when it wants transparency on their side. You get what I'm saying? So if you stand up for a principle like more transparency, know what people are up to, you're never going to find a Trumpster or a MAGA hat wearer on your side when it's their guy in the spotlight. I just had to get that off my. Do you agree with me on that one, Miles?
Oh, yeah. 100%. I mean, I think there's a whole element here, not just of hypocrisy, but like but this is run through government as well. I mean, one thing that I find interesting is that even under the Obama administration, there was this effort to suppress leakers and whistleblowers. And whenever there's anything that could threaten the administration that's in power, or that, you know, comes into the question of, you know, national security or what have you, suddenly these free speech arguments do tend to go out the window. It's especially hypocritical, though, as you said, when it comes from the same people that have been saying, you know, that there's this conspiracy against Trump and the deep state and the globalists and, you know, all this kind of weird alt-right QAnon world, you know, feels about, you know, everybody's up against Trump, and if only we could get to the truth of the matter and like reveal the true story, people would open their eyes. But then at the same, you know, breath, go ahead and defend Trump, you know, refusing to release any information that has to do with, you know, national security or the truth about how he's run his administration. It's just, you know, it's not politically transparent at the very least.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the Supreme Court. As I was coming on the show, the story is breaking about the DACA ruling, 5-4. John Roberts joining the four. I call them Democrats. Some people call them liberals. Whatever you want to call them. The left branch of the Supreme Court. John Roberts was a swing vote. A couple days ago, John Roberts joined Neil Gorsuch with the liberals to preserve the rights of gay people from being fired just for being gay. So first of all, I haven't had an opportunity to break through to read the ruling. And Miles, because it happened right before I went on the air. Could you just give us any updates? I haven't. Have you had an opportunity to read it or read about it anyway?
I've looked over some reviews of the brief, and it does look like it's tricky because with a lot of these things, there's the classic case of you remember when the Roberts Court and Roberts actually wrote the ruling on it, actually upheld the individual mandate in Obamacare. That was many years ago now, obviously when Obama was still president, but initially it was all misreported as they'd struck it down. So you've got to take a breath when these rulings come out and really look through what is actually said. And that's my issue with some of the initial headlines around this story that just said Trump, Supreme Court rules, Trump can't end DACA. This is obviously a major victory for the immigrant rights movement in America. And, there's 800,000 young people, dreamers, that have been protected and have been allowed to remain in the United States and not be deported as a result of that program. So the fact that it is going to remain in place and is protected from Trump's really, just sickening efforts to try to deport these young people and to shut down immigration in the U.S. wholesale, all of that is cause for applause. That said, what the court ruled isn't that Trump can't end DACA. It's that the way that he went about doing it through these executive orders was improper and unconstitutional, essentially. That doesn't close the door on future attempts by this administration or another administration in the future to go about another route to achieve the same end. So I think the fight is still not over, unfortunately, on this issue of the DACA program, and will require, mobilizations. I'm somebody who believes strongly that while the court might seem out of public control and that these people have lifetime terms and, they're appointed and not elected, it's an incredibly undemocratic body, it is still somewhat, and we've seen this historically, I think, reflective of the public attitudes and public opinions and public moods and organizing. And so I think that the immigrant rights movement in this country has seen a lot of blows under this president, but it is still a vibrant, part of our democracy. And that as people continue to organize to defend immigrant rights, I think you'll see the public opinion continue to move in favor of immigrant rights, which it has, even under this president who has been so explicitly against immigration. And because of that, I think it will be a positive thing. But I think we should be sober, and not think that this means that Trump his hands are tied and there's nothing more he can do. I'm sure he's still going to try to find some new legal mechanisms to go after this. The one good thing, though, to editorialize a little bit, is that what it seems like is Trump gets bored very easily, and so he could move on from things, and he might just give up on this and go for try to do something else. I think you saw this especially when it came to the coup in Venezuela. That was a big thing that the administration was pushing, and then they realized that it wasn't really working and that they weren't getting their, guy in power, and Trump basically admitted he just got bored with it, and they decided to put their efforts elsewhere. So that's a possibility here too as well. So all to say, very positive thing, and I think it's a great day. I was not expecting, two pretty positive Supreme Court rulings out of this bench this year. So the fact that both the LGBTQ ruling that you mentioned earlier, and this DACA ruling came through is definitely good news.
Well, the cynic in me says, first of all, it's a very long shot that he'll lose interest in this particular issue, like Venezuela, because, of course, this launched his political career, his condemnation of people who immigrants to this country. But it is, I will be watching. You're absolutely correct. It's a very political court, and we'll see which way the Republicans in the court go, if they think it's in the best interest of the Republican Party. And that's my cynical view of how they rule. I kind
of agree with that. I think that the Republicans really avoided a potentially huge blow here, because I think if the court had ruled against DACA, I mean, obviously the effects of it would have been catastrophic for these young people, and also in terms of LGBTQ rights in the workplace. But negative rulings on those, I think, would have really inspired a big backlash from Democrats, and I think we would have seen that in November as well. So I would not be shocked if that was part of their calculation in these rulings.
All right, Miles, before we go, we have a question from one of our listeners. D, what is that question?
Absolutely. Live stream chat question. First off, Miles, our live stream chat room loves you. Can you do us a favor? Just say, hey, live stream chat, how's it going?
What's up, live stream chat? Love y'all.
Yeah. That's a shout out for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Steven on the live stream chat. He says, can you ask Miles to comment on the Boogaloo movement?
Oh, yeah. We didn't talk about that. The Boogaloo movement.
Well, this fits in with kind of what we were discussing earlier. Mentioned QAnon and so forth. Boogaloo boys. This is a part of the sick result of our internet age, mixed with the history of this white rights, white nationalist movement in the United States, has led to this like sick, toxic, bubbly cauldron of mainly like angry, dispossessed white guys that have decided that they are going to be helping to lead a modern race war, a modern civil war or something, and that these all of these protests are opportunities to accelerate that. And we've seen examples of police departments throughout the country arresting some of these people that associate with this Boogaloo movement. And unfortunately, before, I know you jokingly referred to me as potentially wearing a Hawaiian shirt. That is kind of their trademark, is they wear these Hawaiian shirts around, and but they're also usually heavily armed as well. And that's the thing, is these police departments have recovered massive troves of ammunition and firearms from these individuals. So it's very dangerous. I think that it speaks to the fact that there is still this kind of strong militia-like movement, and it's part of it being fueled by Trump himself, and the Steve Bannons of the world, and all these right-wing populists who want to encourage this type of right-wing racist hate. I do think that they're still a huge minority, though, and that's part of the reason they were not able to hijack these legitimate protests against structural racism and police brutality and turn them into some type of race war. So I, for the record, very anti-Boogaloo.
And D, is there another question that we have? Well, there's a question that Dennis had for you, Miles, before we let you go. It's a trivia question. We were talking earlier, I was going on a tangent within a tangent, as I often do, talking about John Bolton. This is the start of the show. And I went on a tangent about Michael Bolton. And so Michael Bolton, the singer. Dennis wants to know, what's your favorite Michael Bolton song, or can you even name one Michael Bolton song? Just so you know, I was incapable of naming a Michael Bolton song. So what's your favorite Michael Bolton song?
I really appreciate your candor there, and
yeah,
very humble. I'm coming up with blanks. For some reason, at first I was thinking you meant Michael McDonald, who I do know and enjoy his songbook, but Michael Bolton is the long blonde-haired singer,
right?
Correct?
Yeah. Looks like Skinny Fabio.
Yeah.
He looks like Skinny Fabio. Yeah. I do know Fabio famously got hit in the face with a bird at an amusement park, which was one of the great absurdist moments But no, I'm coming up with blanks. Are you a fan? Is Dr. D a Michael Bolton fan?
Huge. Got a tattoo. It says, I love Mike.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. No, it's been a really humbling day for me. Miles, I'm going to have to have a drink and just forget it because I've been humbled on a couple fronts.
Oh, listen to this.
Yeah.
All right. I found out today because of the whole CTU Scooby-Doo thing. Ben's never heard of Scooby-Doo.
I didn't know
he didn't know what
Scooby-Doo
Scooby-Doo was.
That's really embarrassing. He doesn't let me forget that one.
He said, "What is that? An ice cream?"
So I'd go. Miles is stunned. He's speechless. But I had heard of Michael Bolton. I just did not know any Michael. And then I looked it up on the internet and discovered that he has butchered many great songs with his cover versions of them. So,
well, Scooby-Doo, where are you? That's a classic theme song. I figured that would have come across your plate at some point.
It was popular in the 70s.
Well, that was an embarrassing moment. I said to Dennis, "Come on, man, that's some 80s stuff. I wasn't paying it." And he goes, "No, it's the 70s." And I looked it up, and it was 1969. I was so into sports. I don't know what I was doing, Miles, man. I was following the Bulls. I didn't know about Scooby-Doo. I was following the Bulls and George McGovern, okay, and eating pizza. So I didn't know about Scooby-Doo. Anyway, what a humbling day for me. I'm just going to go lick my wounds. Miles, thank you so much. Great job as always. Keep up the good work. Miles Kampf-Lassin from In These Times. Stay safe. All right, Miles?
You too. Good to talk to you.
All right. That's the great Miles Kampf-Lassin. Comes on this show once a week, once every other week, something like that.
Yeah, he's for the live streamers. He does a lot of our bonus interviews as well. So if you've yet to download those bonus interviews, what's your problem?
Yeah.
And second off, go download them. There's a lot of Miles Kampf-Lassin interviews going on there.
Any updates before we head out the door?
Yeah, it's about this Scooby-Doo thing.
Oh no,
I know.
Did the city council issue a proclamation denigrating me for not knowing who Scooby-Doo was?
Well, there's that, and no, they didn't. They don't.
Yeah,
no,
resolution. Raylo, I can't believe it.
No. Okay, so the following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times, France Spielman and Nadir Issa. It says here, in the latest back and forth between two fierce political rivals, Mayor Lori Lightfoot expressed outrage Thursday over a tweet by the Chicago Teachers Union she called, quote, clearly racist and an example of a, quote, right-wing tactic. There's no love lost between the mayor and the ultra-progressive CTU, which gave Lightfoot her first major political test with an 11-day teacher strike last fall, just months after her election. Let's see here. They go on to talk about the tweet, which we talked about. Hit rewind, listen to that if you're listening live. So Lightfoot has weighed in.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised she weighed in and makes the teachers union look bad, retweeting that tweet.
And Lightfoot said Thursday she hadn't actually seen the tweet, but, quote, it has been described to me. She branded it as clearly racist, deeply offensive, and borrowing a playbook from the right wing.
Yeah, it was a stupid tweet. Whoever sent it out in the first place, it was dumb to retweet it. And, my advice to absolutely everyone out there, just hold back in the retweeting.
Yeah.
Hold back. You don't have to retweet everything. You don't have to be all Twitter.
Like social media's turned into like a strip club or something. Like nothing good is going to come out of this once you get done here.
I have to retweet. I'm obsessed with my Twitter account. Twitter is, guys, I know you love it. Lefties and righties love your Twitter account. Just calm down. Think about it. Take a walk in the park. Walking in the park. Watching lovers do their thing. Come on, everybody.
But you better be walking in the park. No stopping. No congregating.
No, yeah. Those lovers doing their thing. Get up or I will arrest you. Anyway.
But that's our show today, everybody. Like we said, check out our bonus interviews. We're going to be recording one after this show. Sergio Mims and what's the lady's name?
Danielle Scruggs.
Danielle Scruggs. They're going to be talking about the Spike Lee's latest on Netflix,
Bloods.
The Five Bloods. And that's going to be a bonus. We're going to record that. And tomorrow on the program, who's on the show tomorrow?
Tomorrow, Romana Hussein, and then our bonus, SDG, the aforementioned Stacey Davis Gates, and then Alderwoman Rosanna Rodriguez and Alderman Daniel Espada will be talking about the defund police movement. So those be bonus drops, D. They'll drop over the weekend.
Where can they hear those?
You can hear it just Ben Joravsky's show. You can hear it at Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Job security, guys. You can hear it at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download your favorite podcast.
That guarantees you job security. 'Cause after all these years, I still can't do it. Anyway, I want to thank the great Miles Kampf-Lassin for joining our show. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois. And as Stacey Davis Gates, Lori Lightfoot, Miles Kampf-Lassin, Shia Kapos,
Scooby-Doo,
Fran Spielman, and Scooby-Doo will tell you, back home in Alton, they call him Dennis. Give yourself a raise. Get out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everyone.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit.
Number 5.
What's more important, saving lives or getting a pedicure? It's cold out. Nobody's going to see your toes.
I've seen a whole lot of catfish, some turtles. No gators yet, though.
This is an awfully big body of water. We're looking for a needle in a haystack. And we're talking about a needle that moves constantly.
He's checked the floating traps he hand-curated.
Right now it's a combination of drumsticks, rats, and smelt.
Yum.
Well, as far as the gator goes, that's a pretty good offering. We're hoping that the wind blowing the scent across the water will catch his attention.
We're all speculating on whether he grew up in somebody's, bathtub or backyard or something.
He's enjoying the 5 feet of water. He probably was raised in 6 inches. If we could find the animal, we can capture the animal.